Hello, my name is Brett Bumeter. I'm with Softwit Media, and I'd like to give you a quick comparison of InboundWriter and the Scribe SEO content optimizer. Both of these are services separately that you can sign up for, but you can incorporate them into your WordPress website with a plugin. So in this situation, I've got an article that's already been published, and I've run Scribe on it over a year ago. I can see my primary keywords that Scribe identified. These are the keywords it thinks are the most important, and it gives me a percentage score for this article, trying to determine how well I've written it from a content or a SEO and copywriting perspective. So this is what it looked like when I originally ran it, my original score. It's coming up real quick. So you can see some of the original analysis and recommendations that Scribe provided me. This article has been doing fairly well for me over the last year or so, but it never hurts to relook at things and see if it can be improved. So I'm going to take a look at this from InboundWriter's perspective and see if it can help me further improve how this article is optimized. So InboundWriter asks you to identify what you think are some of the starting terms or something like a primary keyword, but this is what you think the article might target. So I'm going to actually copy my primary keywords from the Scribe score, and I'm going to put the one that I think is most important at the top. We can kind of see where these keywords show up in the title as well. In this case, I'm going to try and swap something out because I think this is more about donation plugins than some of the other ones that Scribe identified. That might actually be one of the areas where I can get some better results with InboundWriter. So, as you can see, those other three don't really fit terribly well. So maybe I will shoot for WordPress donation or donation plugins. So I'm going to kick this off. Now, InboundWriter has to analyze the current setup, if anything has been written or not, and it goes out and it takes a look at some search results for those keywords. It tries to figure out how strong the marketplace is for those particular keywords, and it'll use some of that information to help me score this article and tune it as I write it in kind of a real-time setting. I've always been a fan of Scribe SEO. I've been using it since the very early days, and it's definitely brought me some terrific results. But every now and then I'll write something and I just can't quite get the thing zeroed in. Sometimes I can figure it out and I can head it out of the park, but every now and then I'll get something that's a B and I just can't quite figure out what I need to do to make it an A+ article. So we're still going. InboundWriter's still pulling in some of that keyword research. And here we go. It initially lights up with a score because I've already written this article. If I hadn't written anything, it would start at 0 and work its way up as I start to write. So you can see the user interface is a lot more dynamic with InboundWriter than it is with Scribe. And actually they have a web-based client that has a user interface that's even better than this. It's really stellar, actually. I'd highly recommend checking it out. But we can see that we have a few items. It gives us some tips as we write. These will change and adjust instantly as we write things, and it tells us some of the things that we can do to improve this article. So we can see if we want to improve our score, we can refine the focus of our document a little bit, focusing in on some of the focus terms, is what InboundWriter calls it, that might work a little better. And InboundWriter tends to look at the focus terms or the keywords that have been mentioned at least 5 times, calls those items focus terms. It even keeps a running count. You can see in green the number of times that each of the focus terms have been mentioned. And in the blue area, we'll see something called a relevant term, and a score of that as well. The leafs that you see filling in, those represent how strong those keywords are for search. So, how many people are searching for those keywords. So I've picked 3 focus terms that don't have a whole lot of search traffic, but from my perspective, I want the right search traffic. I don't want to necessarily go generic and get the wrong traffic. So I can also remove a search term if I want, and I can try to add a different one if I want to zero in on something a little bit more fruitful. So since I only have 3 mentions of that particular word, it won't automatically bump up into that focus term section. I actually have to go into the article and change what I've written a little bit to make some additional improvements. We also see that we've got a couple other tips that are showing up, or an additional tip that shows up since we removed a focus term. So fundraising, which has been mentioned 3 times, is something that if I wanted it to be a focus term, I just need to mention it 2 additional times in the article. So let's jump into the article itself and see how this kind of works. One thing I would point out in this article, for a lot of different reasons, not something I did intentionally, the word PayPal shows up over and over and over again, probably over 20 times. That's partly because I'm writing about PayPal plugins, and many of the plugins have the word PayPal in their name. So as I mentioned, 14 PayPal plugins, there's 14 times the word PayPal is used. That does have an impact on the SEO ranking for this article, but as I am hoping to show people how to get better results with other keywords like fundraising, as an example, I need to make sure that this article works for my primary purpose or my focus term, as opposed to the tangent topics like PayPal. I don't want to necessarily find somebody that's just looking for generic information about PayPal. So it does recommend that we get our focus terms at the beginning of the article. So as I'm kind of glancing through, I'm looking for opportunities in the text where I might add these focus terms, maybe even change something that reads slightly awkward, see if I can find a better way to draft this so that it makes more sense for people. So I've got this one paragraph that says, we recommend the first few nonprofit plugins at the top of the list. So I'm trying to figure out if maybe I could change something there. As I'm reading that, the whole sentence does feel a little awkward. So let me see if I can rephrase that. It must have made sense to me at the time, but as I look at it today, it doesn't. So let's simplify the sentence, and we'll get our focus term, or the term that we want to be a focus term, plugged in there. So as you can see, when I added that, it bumped things up into that focus term. It's not a relevant term anymore. It is a focus term. So we've partly achieved that goal. So let's just, for giggles, add the word PayPal. Now as we do that, you can see PayPal is a relatively generic term, and it gives me my count. It bumps up my score on the dial up there. So if I were targeting PayPal, my score would be tuned up just a little bit better. I'm doing that more so that I can elevate my awareness of how many times I mention PayPal. As you can see, as I mentioned these plugins, it comes up over and over again because that's the name of the plugin in some cases. So we've got a score of 71. Let's see, can we put any of our other focus terms somewhere within here? Notice that number 4, it doesn't have a description. I want to pull up that link and see where it goes to. I don't recall off the top of my head. It actually looks like it's slightly broken, and it is. It goes to a tag in the plugin repository, somewhere along the line I may have edited this and deleted a sentence, or may have drafted it poorly to begin with. So that's not exactly a good thing. I don't necessarily need to send people to a generic search. It might not hurt to send them to the donate tag in WordPress in case they want to find something new. But I'm not sure that it makes sense to include it in my bullet list of 14 nonprofit donation plugins. So let's get rid of it. Now, I had actually added an extra. I was up to 15, so as I remove that broken one or cluttered one, I'm back down to my right size number of 14. I do need to make sure that my all-in-one SEO fields are up to date. So I'm moving kind of quickly here. So let's see. Let's take a look at Scribe, and let's run a new analysis. We can see our original score. Scribe does not automatically update as we write. They treat the Analyze button kind of like a cell phone minute. Every time you push that button, you're using a minute. And I use a publisher plan currently. I've bounced around. I've had much higher plans, I've had lower plans. Kind of depends on how much SEO work I'm going to be doing on this particular site. So let's see if my score changes. And as we see, wow, while I'm getting a 71 on InboundWriter, the work I've done so far pushes me up to 100% with Scribe. Let's take a look at our keyword analysis. We can see our density's up, and we've got some slightly different primary keywords. Again, we've got nonprofit donation is in there, which I'm happy about, and PayPal's still in there because it's mentioned so many times. WordPress and plugins, it is about WordPress plugins, so that does make sense, but there's my main one. And fundraising is kind of bumping up as well. It's not a primary, but it is considered significant. So I'm 71 here on InboundWriter, and so it's been my experience that when I get 100% on Scribe, when I push that out to the world, I'm going to get some good results on that particular article. So that's an interesting indication that InboundWriter is scoring me at 71, showing opportunity for more improvement. Yet my past experience tells me that I'm probably going to get some good results. So they're telling me that I might even do better if I put a more highly ranked focus term in my title. What they mean by that is more highly ranked means a search term that is more popular. More people are performing searches on that. If I do that, they'll push me up. So InboundWriter is looking in part not at the quality of the title and how good it is for my target. They're looking more at how much traffic I might get on that title. So that score is a little different than Scribe. Scribe would tell me how to optimize for the primary keywords if I've got the right primary keyword, and InboundWriter is guiding me towards something that will have a keyword that brings in more traffic. Those could be two very different things. Many people will say, give me the traffic any day, give me all the extra traffic I can get. It's been my experience that I do a lot better when I bring in the right traffic, whatever that quantity is, however many people that might represent. If I bring in people that are coming in on a tangent keyword, it's been my experience that they will be a lot more likely to bounce. So glance around a little bit more. Notice I've got some tags in here that are a little off. InboundWriter doesn't pay attention to tags today in its current beta iteration, but Scribe SEO does sometimes. So does Google, for that matter. So there you have it.